Thank you all for tuning in. The following is a presentation of Bald Spots Productions. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Subscribe, follow, whatever it is you've got to do to kick that algorithm into gear and help us reach more people. Your humble host, Bill Hatch the Third, coming to you live from the Fleshlobe Studios of Bald Spots Productions here in the beautiful city of Malden, Missouri. Joining me from a more than acceptable safe social distance are my guests for today. First, we have out of Canada, Amanda Hess. How you doing, Amanda?
I'm amazing. Thanks for having me on.
You are amazing. And joining us this time from the beautiful country of Switzerland, at least I assume it's beautiful from all the pictures, is my other guest, Tony Jetton Selimi. How you doing, Tony?
Hello, guys. Hello, ladies. I'm excellent. That's what I can say from this beautiful country that always reminds me of my childhood.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I've definitely seen plenty of pictures. I've known people from Switzerland, in fact, but haven't had anyone call in from Switzerland yet. But hopefully, we'll get a couple of listeners from out there this time around. Yeah, you're definitely the world traveler. Well, I always ask my guests now the same question. To get things kicked off, and that is, who are you reading right now? And so this time we'll go gentlemen first, and ask Tony. Tony, what are you reading?
Right now, I'm reading the book "The Richest Man in Babylon."
The Richest Man in Babylon. Okay,
yeah,
that sounds interesting.
So
what's it about?
There's so much story. It's about wealth building, Bill.
Okay.
And basically the entire story behind that, telling how they became so rich and the kind of processes they had in place. So it's full of anecdotes, full of stories, and a lot of insights for people who want to elevate their existing financial knowledge.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah, the Babylon part can be a little scary for some people with some of the connotations that carries with it, but yeah, definitely always interested in wealth building, because I want to have wealth, and because that leads to a lot of security. Wealth might not be able to buy you happiness, but can certainly buy you a big boat and pay for the utility bills. So Amanda, how about you? What are you reading?
Well, I haven't opened it yet, but I'm planning to start reading, which is often the thing for me, just so we know. Gabor Mate's new book, what is it called? The Myth of Normal. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to cracking that open and giving that a read.
Okay, that definitely sounds right up your alley. With helping neurodivergent women and people in general. Because there really isn't a normal. We were talking before. I don't remember if I'd mentioned it on one of the shows that with you, Tony, but years ago, I was in Hollywood acting in a play when I thought I was going to be a professional actor. And we were taking a break at a sidewalk cafe, and in the median of the road that we were next to, there was a man barking at cars. And at one point he sat down, ate his lunch, took a break, and then he got back up, stood back up, and began barking at the cars again. And it occurred to me that this was perfectly normal for this man. That this was how he lived his life, and this was normal, and it was just very different from my normal. And I began to imagine reality, in each person's reality, being like a circle in a Venn diagram, and that most of the time our circles overlap pretty much, maybe just a little bit different for most of us, but for some of us it's a lot, and for that man it was really a lot. Different, and that what seemed normal for him just didn't seem normal for me, and So that's just how life is that that each of our normals are a little bit different from each other. And yeah, but yeah, we talked about that before the show, and yeah, I realized that's actually important. But no, that's cool. And
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
yeah, so wow, so what are we going to talk about today? Let's see, Amanda. Speaking of, since we're talking to you right off, you help. What is neurodivergence for those who aren't familiar with the term?
Yeah, I think it's a good question to get answered. And I think if you ask 10 people, you'll get 10 slightly different responses. So, what I
Which
would
is
say
appropriate.
neurodivergence is, which is kind of funny. Well, how I define it is you have a brain, and the way that your brain operates basically doesn't quite fit with the way society wants it to work. So, the way that you work and the way that you function and the way that you process and the way that you act and react doesn't get fully supported by the society that we live in. And so you start having problems and difficulties because of it. That's how I would define it.
And you work with specifically with women who are neurodivergent.
Yeah, I do. I could work with men. It's not that I'm anti-man or anything like that, or that I think men are different. They're not that different. I know sometimes it's really fascinating to me, actually, because when I post on social, sometimes men will be really offended that my messaging is for women, which I always find so interesting because, I think it's really not meant to be that way. But at the same time, I can definitely understand that when we are neurodivergent, a lot of times we feel excluded. And so that can sometimes feel kind of painful to feel like somebody's actually purposefully excluding you. And I understand what that feels like. So I have some warmth for these men. I'm like, come on in, it's fine. Everything's okay. You can still be here. But what I do notice, and the people that I do tend to work with, what they're experiencing is they're neurodivergent. I think there's lots of neurodivergent people that are fine with it. They feel okay with it. Yeah, they have their struggles, but they're getting through it. It's okay. Just some of the people, or really all the people that work with me, are in emotional distress. So they're experiencing a lot of emotional distress. They're trying to put the pieces together and they just can't seem to make it work. And it gets harder and harder and harder, to the point where there's a tipping point where they realize, I just really need some help figuring this out.
Okay. Yeah, I can identify. I myself, I struggle with major depression and ADD, and sometimes that makes life really difficult. Um,
Yeah.
I'm going to school right now in addition to the different work that I do. I try to keep myself busy so I'm not alone with my thoughts. But yeah, I can understand having to struggle against what people think of as normal. But I've found that when things are working right, that it's actually an advantage.
Mm-hmm.
For like, say, with depression, I can sit here and work on the same problem over and over and over again until I get it right. And as when that's working wrong, they call it rumination, and I get stuck in a loop of remembering bad things of my past. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it kind of gives me a boost up when I'm trying to problem solve.
Yeah.
When things are working right. So I can imagine there's a lot of those kinds of instances.
I love that. I think that that's actually the truth of every single thing. Sidebar, when I was 19, I decided I wanted a tattoo. And when I was 19, it wasn't that common for people to have tattoos, right? Because it was a while ago. And I went into this tattoo parlor. There was this biker dude that did my tattoo. It was all mostly terrifying for me. I was a very naive 19-year-old. But I picked a tattoo off a wall. Like, that's how I decided what was going to be permanently put on my body for the rest of my life. So I got this yin yang, though, inside of a sun, and got it on my hip. And at the time, I just really thought it was a cool symbol, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now it's so interesting and so fascinating to me to look at it and go, I didn't even know how important that was going to be for me later in my life. And to really see that everything that's bad has good and everything that's good has bad, and that there is the positive and the negative of everything. And one of the things that I teach my clients is that life is 50-50. And so you are going to have 50% positive emotion and 50% negative emotion, no matter what you do. No matter what you do, no matter what you accomplish, it just doesn't matter, because negative emotion is part of being human. And so if we can start embracing the negative qualities, like you say, and seeing that there are positive sides to this, there are things about that thing that is kind of your Achilles heel that makes it really hard, that can actually be channeled in a way that can make your life so good. And that, to me, like, that gives me chills when I think about it for myself and for you and for anybody else.
It's great. You were going to say something, Tony?
Of course. I mean, I'm listening at the moment, so I love listening as much as I love speaking. So I like the both sides. So as Amanda said, in my entire work, it's about, really, when you think about it, it is what's going on in the mind and trying to make sense of inner and outer reality. And unfortunately, most people haven't been trained to use the most sophisticated intelligence God-given, to all of us. And throughout all of my work, at a soul level, my main message across all of my book is nothing is missing. But at the material level, the mind polarizes and creates biases. And, most people end up in a very disturbed psychology. And therefore, they're facing reality with all of those biases and polarization. And as Amanda quite rightly pointed out, when it comes to the worst part, when it affects their health, affects their marriages, affects their choices, their children, they tend to seek help, those who can. But there's a lot of majority of people out there who can't, frankly. So I'm in Switzerland here because I'm working with private clients, and my clients are all 7 to 9 figure individuals with very busy lives and a lot of responsibilities. So 5 days, I have a training I'm called Climb Greater Heights. It's an exclusive training, one-to-one, with either a couple, individual, or CEOs, or couple with their children. And the reality, all the conflicts, no matter what form or shape come into it, it's because of that, not having that equanimity in the brain to be able to distinguish that in every situation you have the polarity. And I talk about it in my book, #Loneliness, many years when I published it. And also my TED Talk. TED Talk goes into much deeper than that, goes into reality, goes into consciousness, goes into artificial intelligence before even it happened. So everything is happening now. I predicted in my TED Talk in 2017. So the human predicament is, unfortunately, it's the mindset, it's the psychology, and I would say the different levels of emotional intelligence that people have to be able to face the ever-growing challenges. Because, we're not creatures, we're not created not to have challenges. We're not created to be one-sided. At the essence of who we are, even at the smallest particle that we know today, we have duality. So therefore, our mind is a jewel. It's actually becoming master of our own intelligence to be able to use it with a vision, alignment with who we are, what our authentic values are, which gave me, when I wrote and published 2 books, Amanda, during the COVID. One is The Unthinkable Code, which is about leading, living, and loving authentically, and how to take control of your mind and your emotions, and then how you can then use that to become excellent leader. So you can awaken authenticity in other people. So your words about balancing the 50-50, it's where true authenticity lives. So you can actually embrace yourself for all you are. But, for me, I saw this when I was a kid, Amanda. As Bill knows, I was born in North Macedonia in former Yugoslavia. And over there, being of an Albanian origin, you were singled out straight away the moment you say Albania. You're a child and they are teaching you that you have no worth. And deep down in my soul, I knew this is not right. This is not that my mother taught me. In my soul, I felt it as a child. And I always had this dream, I'm going to go travel around the world and teach people. And I focused to become the best I can. And my curiosity about that started at a very young age. But also I had this 2 years when 6 months out of which I was in hospital with a life support machine. And where the doctors told my parents, I'm going to die. This is me 8 years old. And then they took me to the very same spiritual teacher and healer who said to my parents when I was born, He's going to be a masterful healer. He'll go around the world and help a lot of people. And my parents said, well, my son is dying. So 6 months going backwards and forwards from hospital, as my body started healing, I started becoming even more curious. How come this man in the middle of the mountains with no electricity, not have the facilities that hospital has, makes me feel better every single day? And then you have this side of it, they give you all the medication and everything else, and they tell my parents he's going to die. So my curiosity about understanding science and spirituality and how to harmonize those, to awaken that intelligence that Amanda, you, me are discussing in here, was what drove me to become the expert and going around the world and helping people no matter what their problem is, whether it's financial problem, if they want to create a financial breakthrough, if they want to create a business breakthrough, leadership team, or in their family. So in here, I've been having like family after family, couple after couple. And the reality is that neurodiversity that Amanda is talking, it's what, if we all awake that globally, people will have much more kindness, empathy, love, and integrity with themselves and with others.
Yeah, 100%. It's a powerful story and so true.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. I think I totally agree with you that once people can accept that our realities are different, but that we all have worth, I think that's the key right there is worth and value.
The difference is, I mean, this is our conversation is a representation of that. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're in Europe, Amanda's in Canada, I'm in Switzerland, and I've been in different places where Bill interviewed me. And we have a common purpose, and common purpose is sharing knowledge and wisdom for others to awaken in themselves that which took a lot of pain, both me, Amanda, you, to bring forward, first and foremost, in our own lives, and then being able to be educators and teachers so others can grow.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's often the difference that makes the value. Like inventors, like Nikola Tesla, definitely today would have been called neurodivergent. His brain worked very differently, but you look at the amazing things that he came up with. And of course, he's responsible for the entire AC electrical system that we use today. And you can look at other people and their differences and find the values in them. But it doesn't. Your difference, your value doesn't have to be some huge thing. It can be the value that reaches out to one person and changes their life. Because what's the old saying? You may not. What is it? You may not change the world, but you may not make a difference in the world, but you can be the world for one person or something like something like that. But yeah, you can mean everything to one person, and that's good enough. Yeah,
and I think the other part of that is like really, I mean, you get to decide what you believe about yourself. And I think that people don't know that. I think that we have this idea, this belief that other people need to reflect back to us our worth and our value. And of course, we all want that. And validation is a part of being human. We all, I think, honestly, actually need to be validated. But when we live our life from the standpoint of other people have to validate my worth, then it gets really, really hard to exist in the world. And we start getting really unhappy and we start believing really painful things about ourselves because of what other people say to us or how we interpret what they're saying to us because we're running it through the filter of what is my value. And really our thoughts, and I'm sure, Tony, you probably cover this in your book then and in all your teaching and in your coaching, because our worth is intrinsic and we can
absolutely
believe it. We can believe that. If you choose to believe that statement, your life will improve so much. Just that one small shift will make an enormous difference for you. And you don't need anybody's permission to have that belief. You can just decide.
Yes. One thing I would share with you, Amanda, I think personally, from my personal experience, it's important to have both. And the reason I'll share with you, I'll show you a story. One of the companies I work, because my background is technology and also psychology. And I used to run billion-pound technology transformation program. In one of the companies I was hired, I was paid back then 300,000 for the year. For most people, amazing salary, being a gay man, single man in London with that salary, I did a lot. I helped family, I helped friends, I did charity work, all sorts of stuff. But a few months down the line, when I got the security clearance to be able to pay everybody their worth, meaning if they do additional hours, I go into the system and add them extra hours for people who work, because I was a program manager of 10 billion pound technology transformation program. I got the biggest shock when doing an innocent work, I saw the salary of the person before me who was doing my job. And the salary was 1.2 million. This is when I woke up, Amanda. So while, I don't need permission from others, but I do need the reflection, because if I don't have that reflection, I would not know my worth. That was the first time when I told myself I'm worthy more. I'm talking about only financial. I'm not talking about other things. So as a result of that, I finished the program on time, on budget, all of that. But ever since, I charge my worth. So I needed it both, the intrinsic and the outside mirror reflection when somebody says, because when you see it in the system, somebody did the same job, not a different job, same budget, same project, same the whole thing. And you go like, they were paid 4 times more than I do. And I'm doing the job, I'm delivering that, I'm doing even more hours, yet I was being paid 4 times less. So I was challenged with my own negative part of my ego. Do I continue? Do I go and argue saying pay me the same amount? I honored what I signed. I swallowed all of that. I came out of the job with excellent references. I started my business. I never looked back, Amanda. That's my personal experience.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I mean, I think so many women have that experience. I just want to offer that glass ceiling is for sure real, right? However, what I do think I love the most about that is it's opened your eyes up to possibility, because you could have had that reflected back at you and thought, nobody's ever going to see me as the person that can make $1.2 million. You could have thought that.
Yes,
right?
And it was an option, Amanda. You're absolutely right. It was an option questioning my worth.
But you didn't.
No, I didn't.
It's really interesting, right? That drive or that desire in you, or that ability for you to shift your mindset and go, oh, well, I can make that. Well, I'm going to complete this, but I'm never taking that again. I'm always going to ask for what I think this deserves. And that is the truth of the matter, right? Is our brains are so powerful. What I find with the clients that I coach, because they're not executives, right? They're not seven-figure earners or anything like that for the most part. What I find is that many of them don't have any ability for thinking in the terms of, I'm trying to speak and it's coming out like a million words. What I'm trying to say is they don't think in terms of possibility. So a lot of times when I'm coaching someone, what will happen is, especially at the beginning, I'll ask them, what do you want? Like, what do you want to create? And very, very often, my clients will start crying in that moment because they don't know. And they don't know because they haven't actually even considered what they want for so long, because they have wanted and then it hasn't come to fruition. And so that has just been reinforced over and over and over again, to the point where now they're shut down and feel very hopeless and feel very much like there's some quality in them that makes that impossible. And I'm not going to say you don't have that in your experience, because I'm sure that you do. It's just something that I really notice with my clients, and changing that mindset, like making that shift, is such a nuanced thing, right? For my clients, we work a lot on nervous system regulation. We work a lot on understanding emotion, having an emotional vocabulary, being able to experience the emotion in your body and know what that actually feels like and separate out thoughts. Like, thoughts aren't the truth. Thoughts are just things we think. Thoughts are never facts. They are just something that we can think or not think. But such important work I feel that you're doing, and Bill, you're doing, and having this program, being able to have these conversations about these types of things so people can start seeing that, hey, you know what? Like, if it's possible for Tony, it might be possible for me too. And I agree with you, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, in that we definitely, we need to see what's possible. Somebody needs to give us that opportunity.
Correct. I mean, it's the seeing both the internal and the outside world. Because, sometimes when people ask me, why would people pay you or other coaches or therapists? It's all inside of us. I said, yes, the earth has all the elements, but it took human beings to get those elements and create everything we do. Similarly, when you need expertise, you go to the expert. I said, if you have a Ferrari, you don't take it to the dentist. You go to the engineer who knows how to fine-tune Ferrari engine, and they've studied that all the time. Similarly, great coaches and experts and therapists and trainers, no matter what the label, because we're all educators, they're there because they've gone a path ahead of you, and they can clear the path for you to really go and get what you want. And quite rightly, Amanda, no matter where they are, my clients, they really don't know what they want. Okay? No matter if they are 6-figure or 7-figure, they have emotional problems. They have relationship problems. So today I work with a couple with 2 kids. So it's sort of his wife has taken more masculine energy. And the first question after the introduction in the training, she went like, I want your honest answer, Tony. I've been labeled as a more masculine energy. So I turned to the husband and I said, where have you been labeled as more feminine? Okay, They stopped. Couldn't give me an answer. So I took them through an exercise and I made them to write down what does masculinity means to my client lady and what does femininity means to her. And I told him, her husband, what does femininity means to you and what does masculinity? So they all wrote it down. And then I got them to write the next part is each one of them to reflect at me. What do they see in me masculine? What do they see feminine? And pretty much the lady was spot on, by the way, after we did this exercise. But the man saw me 100% masculine. And then I showed what I've written down, and we all open up the thing. Every trait he was seeing in me that it's masculine ended up the trait that is a feminine. But he needed another form for him to look at it.
Yeah.
And majority of women are in the position they are because the men are not emotionally intelligent. And they haven't built the vocabulary and the way to be able to communicate with their partner, because I believe in equality, whether men, women, it does not matter. We all have the duality in us, to be able to grow together. And a lot of women are stuck up with partners that not only they don't help, but they try to bring them down. And when you say that about they don't know what they know, because they also have potential partner who doesn't know what they want.
Yeah, well, 100% true. It's really, I think the interesting thing is that I coach individuals, so I don't coach couples. How I found coaching, I think, is important to talk about, maybe, because I actually hired a marriage coach. That's how I found coaching. And I had really struggled in my life. I think I've always been what you would consider to be neurodivergent. I have difficulty with sensory processing. I'm very sensitive. I'm sensitive to all things, all senses, all emotions.
You're you're not natural empath.
Right. So you don't really get tools to deal with that when you're growing up like that, especially when you grow up in the 80s. And so ultimately, I was really told to suck it up, right? Suck it up, get it done. Don't be too much. Don't be too emotional. Calm down. And I really learned how to push that part of myself down and to mask in a big way. And so I masked when I went to university, it was all alcohol. Like, it was a very easy way for me to mask, and I could show up and have lots of friends. And that was really important to me because that's something that I really struggled with. I was really severely bullied in school. But when I met my husband, who by the grace of God is just the most amazing human, I really did struggle in our marriage. And then I had my baby, and then I had another baby, and then I had a full breakdown and went to my doctor, completely not okay. Went on antidepressants that made me feel extremely numb and actually made things a lot worse. Did that for a couple of years. Finally went to see a psychiatrist who then diagnosed me with a personality disorder, which was horrible, and tried to do a lot of different therapies, DBT being the big one that they do for that, which, if you don't know, is dialectical behavior therapy, which is a lot of skills. I mean, I have an enormous book. It's enormous. And there's skill after skill after skill. But what was missing for me was somebody telling me that the way that I was reacting made sense, and that actually it wasn't actually disordered, and that there was just nobody had really taught me how to advocate for myself. Nobody had ever really taught me how to take time and space for myself without anybody else's permission, giving myself the time and space to process, getting somebody to help me, a coach that likes me, that believes in me, that gives me more than just an open ear, but actually gives me direction.
Mm-hmm.
And when I hired my marriage coach, she marketed herself as a coach for type A women married to type B men. And that would be like the most apt description of my marriage. And so when I found coaching, she really instilled in me the power of one, which I actually thought was really, I was such a victim in my marriage, in my life, really, just a victim. Like, I felt like everything happened to me, and that is true and isn't true, right? There's that duality, but I learned how to empower myself, and I learned how to kind of communicate in my husband's language, ask for what I need in a way that he could understand, accept the parts of him that were actually loving and giving in the ways that he was actually contributing, which I think is really important, because a lot of times we get to this place where when we feel we're like an abused puppy, that's how I tell my clients, like, this is like for us, is we've been beaten and beaten and beaten. So then if somebody goes and shows you love and they're like, hey, I've got a treat, what do? You bite their hand. And so being able to recognize kindness versus not kindness, and just being able to have that, I guess, that ability to see it and understand it, that is what coaching did for me. First of all, it validated me. Second of all, it gave me a lot of skills and taught me how to use them. It showed me how powerful my thoughts were and how I could really use them to create a better life. And it taught me how to communicate with people, how to set boundaries, how to say no in a way that I get to not be an ass. Like, I don't need to show up screaming and yelling at my husband. I can just be like, no, that's not happening. And it's such a life changer. And so when I hear you talking about that with men, I think, yes, I hope that more men hear that message, because really, you have so much power to have a better marriage. But for women too, you have the power to create a better marriage, even if your husband doesn't do that work. Or at least you can take responsibility for your own life start making choices, I don't know. That was a long speech.
Okay. I mean,
it really wanted to share that just because that's been my experience, and it's so powerful for me.
As a child, Amanda, you can imagine when, I think if you make it in comparison in today's world, when you go to a country where there's race, where there's religion, where there's ethnic diversity, or when it comes to, people have hatred towards people, whether it's homophobia, whether it's, Islamophobia, all the phobias that people develop. And unfortunately, many children get infected by that energy. So when I look back, one thing that I'm grateful consistently to my parents, I was a gifted child back then, because I could ask questions at 6 that adults at 50 didn't ask, when they were done wrong, by the way. And back in that culture, I saw women being frequently abused. And I don't know, maybe I knew it then that I was gay, but I didn't even know the word gay back then. But what I did know, it wasn't right. And my parents invested a lot to have like private tuition. So when I was in school, let's say year 4, my tutors would be year 8. So when I went to high school, my tutors would be professors. When I went to university, my tutors would be doctorate. So I learned in a way being coached and trained from a very young age from people who are years ahead of where I was. And the only time where, for me, I didn't have that is during the war, because I was taken from school straight into former Yugoslavia to fight a civil war. And then, then my life was saved after 14 months. Then I ended up homeless on the streets of London as a teenager with half of my family, gone, the identity gone, the country I knew gone. So, you don't even have a passport anymore. And then also, I didn't speak English, Amanda. So, I'm still learning, I'm always lifelong learner. But, you are in a foreign country with no home, no friends to go to speak about, not being able to communicate. And my first 4 months, all I did was crying homeless, trying to process the grief of what happened, not being able to understand. So after all of that went, I worked 3 to 4 jobs for 10 years with no break. At the same time, educated myself, paid for my education, graduated with 2 degrees in one of the top engineering universities in UK, University College London. And as I did all of that and helping family in the war zone, I started seeing healers and therapists to go back to help me with that grief and all of that. So just like you, for me, healing, coaching, therapy, people who've trained me and helped me, it's what I saw the power in having somebody who can guide you no matter what the challenge is. Because, as you grow, and especially if you grow to where I am and the kind of people I'm growing, your challenges are growing. They're not going to stop. They're just different challenges. So therefore, you need somebody who's even gone through that even bigger. My mentor is a billionaire. So for me, I need to be at that level because I want to bring all of my work, all the methodologies to billion people. So, it's not like I don't have challenges. I've just learned the best tools and I've created the best tools. I trademark them so more people who cannot afford to work one-on-one, like with you, with me, and other people out there, but they have at least something to start that journey. So when they're ready, they can reach out. And I always say to people, if you can afford it, take 10 experts, learn. Because the greatest investment that I see today, it's all of those tuition over 3 decades that now I can use in every session. So coaching for me and training and healing like yourself is very personal. I've seen the transformation in me being, that disturbed teenager on the streets of London to now going, being interviewed over 1,000 TV and radio and podcast shows and being my books selling over 1 million and inspiring people I never knew I would inspire, and being able to authentically share the stories so people can go like, okay, if this person can do it, perhaps I can do it. And if they can see those things in me, in you, Amanda, in other people, at least we've given them a one step of hope. And that's how we build that confidence, unshakable confidence. So in here, like the clients that I'm working with, they said, Tony, you have unshakable certainty. No matter what we throw at you, you bring into light and we cannot even deny it. And for me, that's what coaching does. And I love coaching, training, and anything that people do out there to educate people and to show them a better way of living, thinking, loving, and being.
That's the work right there. You're not wrong.
I've found it in my own experience so important to find the right help. When I first realized that there was help for my depression, which was overwhelming my life, I ended up with a psychiatric nurse practitioner who didn't want to treat the ADD and thought I was had obsessive compulsive disorder. Because in her intake questionnaire, it asked me how many times I washed my hands during the day, And in addition to normal times when I was washing my hands, after using the restroom, before fixing food, I was also doing some caregiving. So there were more times. So she just asked, how many times a day do you wash your hands? And I was like, I don't know, maybe 20. 20 times, I don't know. And she assumed that meant that I was OCD. And it turns
you were
out
just being
that
clean.
I was just being clean.
Just being clean, careful.
I was just normal.
Yes.
I was washing my hands when I was supposed to.
That.
Yes.
I guess with that logic, when COVID happened, the whole world was OCD.
Yeah.
Yeah, no kidding. It must have driven her nuts. But I found another group to give me that help that I needed, and it turned out that the ADD was actually the more important dysfunction, if you will, to treat, because it was feeding the depression. And
Yes.
so I got the right help, and I'm still happening into the right help. By the grace of God, I've got myself a great psychiatrist, and who really is more concerned about me than about writing the next bit of script, however you say it. The next prescription.
Fortunately, there are good people out there, Bill. Fortunately for all of us. Some people go beyond and above their line of duty. So therefore, no matter what their profession is, when you really have a kind heart and awakened spirit, you actually first and foremost see, how can I help this person to overcome that challenge most efficiently and most effectively.
Yes.
Yeah, but I think also it's important to remember, and maybe important for people to hear, that just because somebody has a PhD behind their name, or, whatever it might be, that they're a therapist, that they're a counselor, whatever, you can trust your gut. Like, if somebody is sharing stuff with you and it's not resonating for you, and you're not sure, and you don't know if that's like the right answer for you, you have the ability to say, I'm gonna keep looking.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yeah. You don't have to settle, and it most people deep down somewhere know what's going on, know that they're not being helped in the best way.
And you just don't know. And, I do think there's lots of tools. Meds are tools, right? Being on medication is a tool.
Right.
It's not the solution. And I think that just understanding the truth of that, medication will help, maybe, depending on what's going on. But also, there's so many things that you can do that will help you. So many things that aren't medication, and you can start implementing them, and they can be so simple and so small. They don't need to be these crazy lifestyle changes. You don't have to join the 5 a.m. club to have a better life. I mean, if you like getting up at 5 a.m., cool. I do. I get up, I teach spin class. It's fine. But you hate it? There's other ways. There's other ways to do this. There's so many ways that you can work with you. But it's, I think, more than anything, deciding that you're not broken and that you're not a project to be fixed. You're not. You have an experience of your life. So let's work on making your experience of your life a little better. Because if your experience of your life is a little better, you're going to feel a little better, and you're going to feel a little bit more motivated to go and do other things. Like, that's how we work. Or at least that's how I see it anyways.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, it's depends where the people are, Amanda. They can easily adopt that kind of wisdom. And unfortunately, there are many people who you need to build them to that level. And then, they feel like, okay, I really feel confident to change everything I need to change for me to get what I want. And, with all the uncertainty that's happening in the world right now, and with all the media, with all the negative news, a lot of people are struggling. A lot of people fear their children's future. I'm not sure how you guys are in Canada or Bill in US, but I'm looking at Europe. My homeland is Europe. I'm looking at London, another homeland for me. It's things have changed for many people. And with what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in Middle East, people are worried. And the worst part of it is that you can't see that future very clearly where you're going. So, working on yourself and being able, as Amanda quite rightly said, it's not about fixing people. It's about supporting them in a way that they feel safe and they have the tools for them to make the next step, whatever that may be for that individual, and to be able to, create a vision for their life in a way that inspires them to do it in their own time, not the 5 a.m., because we all have different rhythms in our life and where we perform the best. And being able to support them according to what's in their reality. Because, with some of my clients, the reality is if they work every day, I can make them millionaires in 1 year. But they have their children, they have to go to school, they have other activities, they have the husband, they have family members, they have other hobbies, this and that. So, it's not a rush. It's a journey that you go step by step, and being able to have that kind of support and love and wisdom that can help you eliminate your own path, wherever that may take you.
Yeah, I like you sharing that. And I did want to address, you're sharing your story. I think that it's obviously a very, poignant look at your life and what you've been through and what you've managed to overcome. And I look at what goes on. I'll speak to North America just because that's the majority of the people that I talk to and that I coach. And we can decide how much news we consume, first of all. And I think it's really important to do that. You don't have to watch the news. You don't have to read the news. You can if you want to, but making sure that you remember that the news that you're shown is through the, I think we lost.
I can hear you, Amanda. Continue. I think he'll join us.
Okay. I think just looking at it from the standpoint of, I lost my train of thought. Sorry. I'll get it. I'll put it back in. It's just my neurodivergent self showing up here. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that when you're watching the news, it's somebody else's opinion over what they think should be important for you. And it's not that I don't think it's important. It's not that I don't care about social and economic issues and what's going on in the world, because I do. But I also am very careful about what I consume. I'm careful what I consume on social media. I'm careful what I consume news-wise. There are certain sources that I go to. I go and look when I want to look so that it's not interfering with my day and not taking me out at the knees at a time when maybe I don't have the capacity for it. The other part I just think is something that I see is that a lot of people are our input is so different. I know you've probably seen this too, right? Back when there was no cell phones and there was no internet and there was no whatever, you just didn't have this constant information bombarding you all the time.
And also channels, Amanda, we didn't have them,
Right? Like that I lived in the country. I didn't even have cable. I had 2 channels that kind of worked. And that was about it. And so I read a lot of books, right? And I was outside a lot and we lived, I had horses. But I think that, sometimes people can tell themselves a story and that, well, nothing's really happened to me. So why do I feel this way? Like I haven't had a hard life and I'm struggling. And that means that, I'm selfish or narcissistic or, just mentally ill, versus actually our brain is only designed to handle so much. It really is. And so we have all of these things bombarding us all of the time. And if we feel powerless to control the input, then it makes sense that we would really struggle forever because of that. And, I just would love for people to understand that you can mute people, unfollow people, delete apps, not follow certain news organizations, really reduce the amount of information that's coming in so that you have the ability and the capacity, because we all have a limited capacity with respect to how much we can take in and deal with. So if you're, living your day-to-day life and you're feeling stressed out by everything that's happening in the world, do an audit. Do an audit and decide what matters to me and what doesn't, and what's the most important thing and what's next, really looking at it. And then also, though, if you are in this social situation where you are living in a war-torn country, where your family's being impacted, where homelessness is affecting you, where people are dying that you care about, you're in survival mode, and that makes sense. And that is something that you are going to just have to get through. And I just think that we want to kind of have an understanding of where we're at, and there's only so much we can control, but control the controllables. I guess that's how I see it. I wonder how you see it or how Bill sees it. That's how I see it.
I mean, I can add to that, frankly, it's a very extensive list. But also what I've seen, Amanda, is sometimes people, they don't do it out of ignorance. Well, they're doing it because they don't have the education to know how to do that. To give you a concrete example with a client, I did one action, her life changed. And being me a techie guy, I've been doing technology for many years. All I did, I switched off the notifications on her phone. Simple act. And she went like, I never thought I could do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, there are some simple, really things that people can do to pretty much, as you said, being able to measure what kind of information they bring in. Because I work on different fields with different businesses, with different individuals, I personally give myself 10 minutes to know what's going on at the world level and to know a summary of news, and that's it. And the rest of it, just like yourself, I love daily to have 1 hour reading old-fashioned books. And I've learned this habit from my billionaire clients. They instill their children to spend an hour a day reading. And I've been doing this since I was a kid. So therefore, for me, reading is a whole different world. And I don't see reading like the social media, for instance. I see reading for me almost like touches the creative part of my head because I have a very, very visual mind. So I go into a whole new imaginary world and I absorb the information. Then I can use a lot of metaphorical teachings for people who need, in a way, not to feel directly to tell somebody something, but you say them in a gentle way for them to awaken in themselves, saying, perhaps that could help me. And, it's sort of when you look at like some of the parents, frankly, the behavior that I noticed, Amanda, it's you go to a restaurant, everybody's on their phone. And I'm talking about children as young as 3 or 4, and just say to shut up, here's the iPad. No interaction as a family. And this is what inspired me to write #loneliness, the virus of the modern age, meaning how the behaviors are being shaped, and especially if you are vulnerable emotionally, how that transforms into the collective consciousness and how we are toxically reprogramming people not to hear the common sense you are sharing, Amanda.
Well, you're so right, because so many people are scared of what they're feeling. So it is much easier to go on your phone, right? I mean, and you're right. We're telling our kids, oh, you're being disruptive, or I don't want to deal with you, or I don't have the, I'm not regulated enough to be able to handle having you at the dining room table at a restaurant. So I'm going to give you this thing so I don't have to cope with the emotionality that's going to come along with that. And you're totally bang on and right. I mean, I'm going to look up your book for sure. I think it sounds amazing. I find too, for neurodivergent people, just, the way that I see it, for the people that I tend to help, they really do identify as being like very highly sensitive as well, right? Really having a hard time with sensory processing. And when you're like that, it's really interesting how we will become overwhelmed, and then we will go on our phone and we'll do that mindless scroll of, say, Instagram. And then we start bringing in emotion from that, which makes it even harder. And we just put ourselves in this position where we're an emotional disaster because we don't even have any direct control over our emotionality, because we're putting so much of a load on our senses without meaning to.
Yes, I mean, even one of the couples, because I have different clients here until Sunday, then I'm back in London. I was observing them, how they behave over dinner, Amanda. And this is not like, those are extremely well-educated, successful people, by the way. So at some point, I said to them, if I see things that I was sitting next table to them, that is going into conflict with you, what you're trying to achieve as a couple, I'll come and interrupt you guys. And it didn't take more than 10 minutes before the partner took the phone. Okay? And his wife, she started looking at me. So I went there, took the phone. I said, hold on. And I turned around to him and I said, what do you think is the message to the person next to you having a dinner with you? This person is not somebody who you work with. It's somebody you have family with, somebody you spend the last 30 years. When you do that on a dinner table, just the two of you. And I said, nothing, I was just checking something. Okay? So in their reality, I was just checking something. So I said, okay. I said, you're now going to listen. I'm going to ask your wife. How did you feel when your husband did that? Ignored, not valued, not beautiful. Those are her words, by the way. Not appreciated, not respected. And he started to talk. I said, no. I want you to listen. Please repeat. She did. And I said, one small gesture on a phone over dinner with your wife, she got those 5 messages. You might be innocent in your act, by the way, but the message you transmitted is this. And I said, I hope to inspire you when you sit down with your wife, no matter where you are, you both put your phones in a box and have a conversation, old-fashioned conversation, to reignite that spark that you both asking me to reignite you do. I said, if the behavior does not change, words and reading books are not going to change anything in you. But small acts can transfer into the other person as big actions. I'm listened to. I'm worthy of being listened to. I'm here with you sharing love moment. And you're not distracted by something or someone on phone which is totally unrelated to you and your wife or partner, because I've seen it both sides. So those are small little things that people can really, if they reflect on that, this is why I always say somebody on the outside can see on the inside with much more objective lens, if they have that, I would say, heart of service. When you say to yourself, how would I feel when somebody does that to me? I don't like it. I love conversation. I can spend a whole day without touching my phone. I have a team who do my social media. When I need to, I interact, but I keep myself 10 minutes in there. The rest, I serve people.
Yeah. Well, it's very true that just because we think one way doesn't mean somebody else thinks the same way as us.
Yes.
And it's not a big deal to you, and the other person reflects back to you that it is a big deal to them. You really can decide whether or not you care about how they feel with what you're doing.
Correct. What your act is engaging in the other person's emotion, because this is when it comes to being able to be open, to understand what that person is feeling with your act when you are with that person. Because, one thing that nobody will give you back is time. Nobody. Whether it's your mom, your dad, your children, your husband, people you work with. No. So how do we use the most valuable value we have? And if you're going to be with human being, okay, that human being, heart to heart, both make a choice to be with each other. So why are you spending the time with something that can consciously or unconsciously hurt the other person's emotions?
Yeah. Well, some of it is habit-based. I also think that some of it is that it's an emotional crutch for a lot of people, right? So it's simply a way that it's a tool that we can use when we're feeling an emotion that's too strong, which happens for a lot of people, and sometimes that emotion, by the way, is boredom. Yeah, because we are not a society that likes to feel bored, right? Yeah. That is not our reality. Yet I remember when I was younger, like I said, when I lived on an acreage and we had horses and 2 channels, and I didn't have a lot of friends because I was really badly bullied. So I would just have to sit there and be bored a lot. And I have 2 kids myself. They're 13 and 17. And they act like boredom is going to kill them. Like we'll go to Hawaii and they're unhappy because they're bored. And I just look at them and think, this is fascinating. Go do something.
This is, this is again where social media companies need to take more and more responsibility around the impact that this has. Yes, for sure, there's two sides to everything. But when the balance is tipped, this is where we create huge problems globally, whether it's in education or with children, with adults, no matter what it may be. And in a sense, they've been programming people to always be busy and to have that instant. And the boredom will come because with all this sensory input, you are being programmed, frankly, for boredom.
Yeah. It's true. And you also, I loved what you talked about when you said reading creates creativity for you. So it's one of the things that I really do work on with my clients all the time. So for me personally, we moved. So we lived in a place in Canada, in Alberta called Calgary, big city.
Mm-hmm.
You know, ish, I don't know, 1.2 million people. I mean, it's, I think, considered to be a big city at that point. And when the pandemic hit, my husband and I decided to move. So we moved to British Columbia. We moved to the interior where it's mountains. It's a much smaller city, 100,000 people. But you're surrounded, like behind you is the forest. I have mountains and crown land forever behind me. And you know, lakes, rivers, the whole thing, 4 hours to the ocean. Beautiful. Love it. But when we moved here and winter hit, I realized that there's not a lot to do after 4 p.m., which is when it gets dark in December. So it's dark and it's cold and there's no streetlights on my street. And I could not figure out for the life of me what I was going to do. So I decided to start figure skating again, which is so random. So I skated as a kid until I was about 15. And then we moved out to the country and my parents said, you had to choose skating, riding. You can't have both. I gave up skating. I haven't skated really since. So then, you know, there I am. I'm 45 years old. I'm like, well, maybe there's a master's program. Maybe I'll do that. But it was such a happy accident for me because skating is something that gave me the ability to turn off my brain completely. And as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, I don't know about you, but my brain wants to think about work all the time. That's what it thinks it should do. It really wants to think about it all the time. And so sometimes it can be very difficult to pull away. And skating for me has been just this amazing piece because when you figure skate, I'm sure you can imagine, maybe you do figure skate, I don't know. But
I'll tell you later. I'll hear you.
So when I get on the ice, it is all encompassing. So it is, first of all, I mean, just the act of just even being on skates requires a lot of attention. So your body is having to perform. You are needing to pay attention to what you are doing. And then on top of that, you start adding in all of these different things, jumps, spins, which so fascinating. My body knew how to do after a 30-year break. Just muscle memory is incredible, right? But jumps, spins, footwork, and then also the musicality. So I started getting a program together and I compete now and, you know, I do all of this. But the reason why I talk about it is my brain loves being creative. And I just didn't realize how much I missed that. And so it's one of the things that I do with my clients all the time now is trying to get them to tap into that creative side of themselves because I'm like, human brains love creativity and they thrive with being creative. So it's just like, it's such low hanging fruit that you can grab a hold of and use. But I will tell you, even though I fell last night and I actually have like a little bit of a concussion, I think it's fine. I'll be fine. Such a net positive. And I just love the idea of talking about creativity. And I think we need to talk about it more because I do think we talk a lot about eliminating things. Stop being on your phone. Stop watching so much TV. Stop being sedentary. Stop eating sugar. Stop drinking. Stop doing drugs, right? Stop. And as an adult, it almost feels like it's so much work to be an adult. Like we have to just make ourselves do all this stuff we don't want to do. And then we don't get to do the things that we actually like doing. And then we go to bed and go to sleep and we wake up and we do it all again. And I just think, oh man, you could go out and try things and do things and be creative and have some fun. And you won't even want to be on your phone as much because your life will be so good. I don't know what your thoughts are, but tell me about your figure skating.
You hit the nail on the head. Go on, Bill.
No, I was going to say, it seems like, and from some stuff I've read and from personal experience, that we're not really designed to stop. We're designed to start things. So resisting the addictions of life, whether they be food or drugs or work or whatever your flavor is, it's not about it can't be about stopping those things, because we're not designed to do that. We're designed to go. So it's not, it shouldn't be stop, it should be start doing other things, start figure skating, start bowling, start, whatever it is that's going to take the place of what you're trying to stop, and
Yes, it's just a couple of months ago, man. I launched a course called on Udemy, Overcoming Your Resistance to Change. And there are many facets of that, from neurology, epigenetics, brain psychology, mindset, emotional intelligence, and all of that. And for me, the reason I do my Climb Greater Heights training, people always think I'm on holiday all the time. And it's true, partly it's true, because my work has become holiday. I don't see my work as work anymore. It's taking people out of their environment and become creative of what's possible for them. And also, I teach in beautiful locations, in beautiful view. And when I do vision exercises, when people see something so beautiful, there's part of them, because not only we are creative, we have all of those traits that we're not using. We are problem-seeking and problem-solving beings.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we don't have a problem, we'll create one. No matter where we are, no matter what we do, no matter who we are, we create problems. We create problems because that part of our creative self also uses that intelligence to be able to bring creative solutions on the table. And again, going back to the word that you said earlier about possibilities. Being a mathematician and physician, for me, it's all about going into quantum physics and looking all the possibilities and all the probabilities, because one is possibility, one probability, which means it awakens that open-mindedness in the head. Because if we go into the binary thinking, we see things as bad as good. Okay, we're not looking at all those options. In every bad there's good, and in every good there's a bad thing. So for me, it's about being creative with the both part of our being in a way that you become curious. So for me, creativity with curiosity, it's almost like our two cheeks that gives us a smile, the smile you gave me. So, and when they work beautifully together, then we go into probability, possibility, and then we're going into problem creation and problem solving. Your life never gets bored. So now you become creative in many levels. No, I don't figure skate. Okay. I love figure skating. I used to watch with my mom as a kid, and all the competitions, and I was like, amazing. But I do ski, I do salsa dancing, I do ballroom dancing. Okay. And this is where my escape is, frankly, where I really get recharged, because the movement, I love music, I love rhythm. I go rhythm and vibration, and also I'm an energy healer. So I'm very rare to be able to have the science brain, and also 3 decades of learning different forms of healing art to be able to bring that part of ourselves that brings it all together. So, and on top of that, I love cooking, I love gardening.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's so true, right? How about you, Bill? What do you do?
Right now, I'm going to school. I'm going back to school for a degree for a master's degree in divinity, in a specialty called marketplace ministry, where I'm bringing the wisdom of the Bible into the modern workplace. I'm also
what about
writing
hobbies? We want to know hobbies. We want to know,
hobbies. Well,
yes.
my only hobby right now is because I've been so busy. My only hobby is writing my book. I finally started writing my book on leadership.
What do you like in nature, Bill? What do you like in nature?
This year, when the thaw happens, my plan is to start a garden.
Okay.
And I'm going to plant some apple trees.
Here we go.
I've ordered some beer gear. I'm gonna get back into brewing beer. Eventually when the apple trees start producing, I'm going to start making hard cider.
Cider,
of my
this
own.
we have
Yes.
in common, Bill. Because I didn't tell you, Amanda. At my parents' home, I actually bought my parents' home. I didn't want to sell it in Macedonia. I have a small farm, so I also have a vineyard, small vineyard, and I do both home wine, but also we do schnapps from the grapes and from plums and from apples.
Okay.
So I have my own like small brewery in Macedonia. So now that you mentioned, Bill, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You guys can take notes and share your process.
Yes. Learn from you, Amanda, because since I was a kid, I was admiring figure skating. I mean, when you see, firstly, I guess the beauty behind that, Secondly, it's the techniques and being able to have that kind of balance required for you to, do all those. I do ice skating, but I can't say I'm, doing the wonderful things you were sharing. And actually, last year, where I live in London, I'm not sure have you been to London, Amanda?
I haven't been to London. My husband lived there for a while, but I have never been there.
And you, Bill?
No, not at all.
Okay. So where I live in one of the trendiest area, which is the Battersea Power Station by the river. And every month there's different activities that they set up. During Christmas, they have a Christmas market, but they also have an ice skating rink. So this year, I took my client, coaching her on ice skating rink. Not only she needs to answer me, she needs to balance herself. And this is where I bring creativity, where, it challenges them to say, oh my God, I can do this. But taking the mind away, because sometimes when people have fear, by challenging the mind to think something else, they forget about this fear. Before you know it, they go around the ring without having to balance next to the thing. So one of my clients, she's a specialist in kidneys, nephrolog.
Yeah, nephrology,
yes. And, she was going through some personal stuff, and I said, let's do ice skating. Let's do the coaching outside. She said, I've never ice skated. I said, great, fantastic, let's do it. I said, I'm not a professional, but I'm sure I can put two things, I can keep the balance. I said, let's do it together. And this is exactly what happened. When you bring creativity into something else, and people suddenly, by the time we finish in an hour, she said, I can do this.
Yeah. It is powerful. I do really love that you talk about that. So I also, last year, I decided, I've always loved spin, spin class, stationary
bikes. I
bikes.
heard you earlier on.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Did I talk about that? I must have.
Well,
so I teach spin. You do listen. I teach spin, and I decided to do that about a year ago. I decided I really wanted to teach spin. I've always wanted to do it. So I took a course, and now I teach at our local studio. But spin for me, I love what you talk about movement. And also it's such a good one for me because I have to pick the music and then I'm leading the class, right? So you're working out, you're sweating, it's hard, and you're mic'd up and you're telling other people what to do and you're in charge.
Yes. Exactly. So it's possible,
It's totally possible. And people say to me, I don't think I could do it. And I'm always like, of course you can do it. Anybody can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. But what I love about spin class is how it creates so much creativity for me. So every time I'm done spin, I think because of just all that positive endorphins that get also added in, I am so creative afterwards. I always take voice notes in my car. I'm constantly talking to Surrey, just, making note after note after note. And it's so fun. It feels like the ideas are so free. And so movement is huge, right? I talk to people about that all the time. And different types of movement. I'm like, because everyone just says, well, I'll go for a walk. I'm like, no, a walk is not good enough. You need to do something else. Just challenging people to do different things, switch it up, have some fun, do something you haven't done before, just do it. Just rent a bicycle, whatever.
Yeah.
Go water skiing, go snow skiing.
Yeah.
Go snowshoeing, whatever.
We are saying those words for you. So which one of us are you going to take on this year?
Those are your new winter sports.
New winter sports. Yeah, we got our first snow because this is the first winter I've had in Missouri, and we finally got our first snow, and so it was taking the dogs out to play in the snow and just enjoy.
Did they love it? Did your dogs love it?
They didn't.
No.
No, they came out, stood in the snow for a second, decided that wasn't for them, so they turned around and went back inside.
What is it? They tried it.
They tried it.
Not a fan. Don't want to do it again.
No.
There are things, I did skydiving once, and I did it, and never again.
Yeah, jumping out of a perfectly good airplane doesn't sound that great to me.
Well, I'm sort of guy that I put myself in different situations, and I put it consciously for learning, and also, to push my own limits. And every time I came out of the experience, I learned something new about myself. That, when I look at many different life events that happened, in hindsight, I've got 7 books in total, Amanda, and I'm just bringing one specifically for businesses and people who want to build 7-figure to 9-figure businesses with purpose, with a pain problem, but also philanthropy embedded into it. And how do you go through the cycles that I've helped people over the last 3 decades to really give yourself permission to get whatever you want by serving people. And, when I challenge myself to that level, I go like, oh my God, it's possible. Because no matter where you are, Amanda, for me, when you haven't done something, there's always part of me that says it's not possible. Although I've overcome many challenges, there's always that part that doubts in me. And I go like, okay, is it true voice or is it my fear? And then I'll put myself. So when I first jumped, Bill, believe me, I screamed. My scream was bigger than any lady I've ever heard screaming. So, this is my feminine energy scream. And until almost halfway down, I was like, there's no more scream left, My vocal cords were gone. And then you suddenly go like, oh my God, I did it. And, when you come down, when you land, it's almost you're grateful that you're alive, because anything could go wrong, But would I do it again? Not really. I want to do something else. I want to do something new. Now that I've done it, is it for me? Not really. Like your dogs, I went out. I prefer it inside now.
Opting out.
Yeah. Well,
or
maybe when I lose
or information, opt out.
Maybe when I lose the weight, because I know I'm too heavy right now to do it. But maybe I'll consider doing it once I lose the weight. Because I need to. I'm also trying to lose the weight because I have my knees are bad and one of them needs to be replaced, but they won't replace them until I lose about 100 pounds. So
are you doing swimming?
I'm working on it.
Are you doing any
not.
swimming?
We don't have a pool nearby. I'm doing I'm doing bicycling. I've changed a lot of my eating habits, and so I'm slowly but surely losing weight.
Amazing.
Slowly but surely is the way to go.
Yeah.
Also,
Actually, would you like some tips?
Sure.
Because during COVID, my weight never fluctuated. But COVID, I put on 12 kilos. I'm not sure how you guys, Amanda, do you work in kilos or pounds?
Pounds. I mean, that's what,
20,
30 pounds?
Something like that. Yeah, around 30 pounds. Yeah. And I've been slowly, because I don't go to extremes, I just do more walks and stuff like that. I measure my portions. But still, there was this stubborn fact that was stick on me. And I started drinking what my mom used to do many years ago. So 1 spoon of apple cider vinegar, 1 ginger shot, those that you get ginger shot, pure ginger shots, 1 entire lemon squeeze, and top it up with water. So I do it first thing in the morning before I eat, and I stay about a couple of hours after that, not eating, and the last thing when I go to bed. And in the last 6 weeks, without changing anything about my lifestyle or anything like that, I've lost 3 kilos.
Wow.
And I don't feel bloated anymore because the food, when I was eating somewhere or traveling through airports, or because my life is consistently in movement, talking about movement, certain foods will just bloat me. Now, all the bloated gone. I started getting my slim stuff that I always had before COVID. So I share the recipe with all of them. Unless you have acid in your stomach, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you don't have any like acidity or problem with your stomach, you can eat like sour things. And you've never done that. So therefore, if you can do that, if you can tolerate it, very easily, you can start implementing that into your diet. I guarantee you, if you go a whole year like that, it will help you quite a lot.
Okay. I will give it a try.
I just don't know what your stomach is. I don't know what kind of stuff. But if your stomach is
I've got a cast iron. I've got a cast iron stomach.
Give me 1 second, guys.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I do not. That sounds like heartburn for me. I think I would pass.
Okay. So
that helped me quite a lot. As you can see, I feel a bit slimmer.
You look great.
Thank you. I feel great. The most important part is like my entire energy level and immune system, because sometimes when I do healing work, I get people with all sorts of viruses. Touch wood. They seem like they don't like it. Maybe it's the apple cider vinegar, so stay away. I don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, my father swears by the apple cider vinegar. His father, my grandfather, had horrible cholesterol problems with even his carotid artery and jugular getting clogged up and having to be cleaned out after getting 90% clogged. And my father has none of those problems, and he swears it's by the apple cider vinegar.
Yes, my mom. I mean, I went back and I said, both my parents passed away now, but I went back and I sat down and wrote down what mom used to do in certain situations. I was thinking even writing a book about that, because we don't really reflect on our parents until we become adults and we go through the similar situations. But, most children nowadays, they don't have the gratitude towards their parents. And I've come across a lot of parents who their children are becoming the entitled generation. Without reflecting, there's so much wisdom. So the idea was born just being here for a whole week. So many children don't even respect the kind of hard work that parents have done, especially migrant parents. Because, when they leave their situations, they would leave it either because there's a war or there's something difficult. And we migrate, the whole world migrates. And we migrate, especially people who have children, to bring a better future for their children. And they work very hard, so they get well educated and all of that. But again, going back to the information earlier on, unfortunately, most people will take that information forgetting that, the first person who brought you into this world is your mom and dad. And gratitude starts there before you go out there being grateful to other people you've never met. And there's a lot of wisdom that children could go and reflect about it. So I really thought about, I want to write a book about what can you learn from your parents without the label good or bad.
Yeah. Well, I think it would be a struggle for some people because of the traumatic upbringing that they've had, right? So
But even with those things, Amanda, I think what I've noticed with my ability that I've developed around questioning people without telling them anything, they can start to see insights even in the most challenging situations. And this is where then freedom lives. Otherwise, we end up victims of our history.
Yeah, very nuanced area, though, I would say, depending on the type of trauma that people have.
Depending on type of trauma.
Yeah. But I hear your point, and I definitely would agree. Yeah.
Well, with that, we've been going at this for quite a while now. Not sure exactly how, because my timer got interrupted when my internet went out for a second. But I think it's been more than an hour.
We continued.
You continued, yes, you did, and no, this was a wonderful show. And before we close, I always ask, do you have any final words for the nice people? And this time we'll go ladies first, because I'm not afraid to be a sexist. So, Amanda, any final words for the nice people?
What I would say is that if you're listening to this and you feel inspired to take action and maybe make changes, that it can be really beneficial to just sit with your thoughts about what you think about you. You know, one of the things that I ask my clients to do often is just to write down what are all the things you think about you. And then just look at those thoughts and notice the emotion that it creates. And then ask yourself the question, you know, what would I like to think about myself? Like if I really was happy with my life and happy with who I was, what would I think? And just giving yourself the opportunity to see how you could think differently about you, because what we think is so important, and what we think about ourselves is really going to be what creates real change in your life. If there's anything that I can say that, you know, resonates for anyone, I would hope that it would be that your thoughts are powerful and you have more control of them than you think. So that's what I would say.
Okay. Wow. That's big. Yeah, I keep telling myself I need to start journaling, and that may be something that'll kick me off on doing that.
I like that.
And Tony, how about you? Final words?
Yes, I mean, I would share 2 words, and the meaning behind that. There's a famous saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail.
Yes.
And, some of the greatest buildings and things that we admire in the world are a result of detailed planning. So if you are finding yourself no matter where you are right now in your life, sit down again, continue with Amanda's exercise, add another exercise, and sit down and say, what is that vision beyond oneself? And start with that end in mind and clarify, asking question after question after question, and until it becomes crystal clear in your head, your heart, your mind, your soul resonates with that. It gives you this amplified feeling and emotion that makes you feel you are the king of your own kingdom. And from there, start doing a detailed plan of what needs to be done to get there. So for instance, if you are in a job you don't love, try to identify, is it the job you don't love, or is it the environment in which you work you don't love? And you can get quite a lot of insights about yourself, because sometimes when you change people's environment, they suddenly fall in love in job with again. But sometimes maybe it's something bigger inside of you that you are called to do. And what is it, that voice? What is that gut feeling that Amanda mentioned? What is that your intuition? What is it that you love to do if, let's say, you had all the billions in your life? And as you clarify those things, make a detailed plan. Because for me, this is what I've been doing in my technology world. And when I started my business, it is why I started Climb Greater Height, life and business vital planning mastery. And the more you do that, the more you will see how every year your life transforms, changes, and you get closer to the goal you want in your life.
Love it.
Very good. Yes. Yeah. Who plans to build a tower but does not write out that plan? Absolutely. Let's see. There are links in the descriptions for both Tony and Amanda. Go check out their websites for sure. Buy some books and read them, because just buying a book isn't as important as reading it. But thanks again for coming on the show. You've both been great today. And I want everybody to be safe out there. Remember to wash your hands and stay tuned for the ending credits. Thank you all for tuning in. This has been a presentation of Bald Spots Productions. I'd like to thank our producer, my beloved mother, Eileen Hatch. I, of course, am your humble host. I'd also like to thank my special guests, Amanda Hess and Tony Jetton Selimi. Support the show if you feel so led over on patreon.com. We're known as Bald Spots Pro. Don't you dare miss YWL Online. You can find us on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever fine podcasts are offered. Be sure to tune in next time when my special guests will be Russell Vann, author of the Ghetto Bastard series of autobiographies, and Stelz de Rossi Hurst, musician and creative activist for change. Be sure to like, comment, and share. Subscribe, follow, whatever it is you've got to do to kick that algorithm into gear and help us reach more people.
If you or someone you know needs support now, call or text 988 or chat 988lifeline.org. That is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline here in the United States.